It says that it has, that the system has asked everyone if they'll agree to be recorded and transcribed. So I'm waiting for that process to clear. All right, Will, did you get the recording request? All right, Will, did you get the recording request? If you're answering, you're on mute.
I did.
Okay.
I'm slow at figuring out what to click on.
Okay, well, we'll give everyone else a moment or so here. So Charlotte is not going to be with us today. She's the great moderator. Gilbert's going to step in. So while I'm speaking, if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand with the hand raise icon or enter the chat and type something into the chat. Gilbert will monitor the chat and the hand raising. And if I need to be interrupted, he'll do that. It looks like we are in the recording process, and I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. This is the fourth, let's see, I think fourth, yes, webinar that we've conducted to assist you in filling out the insurance application forms as part of this Texas Annual Conference project to pull together a group insurance opportunity for property and liability insurances for the churches. Gilbert, Will, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So what I have pulled up here is an email which each of you should have received either directly from Will or someone in your church leadership may have gotten it from Will and passed it on to you. This one was addressed to Lindsay at Asbury in Pasadena, Texas, but these all read the same. And this Will's introducing and sending out the applications that we've created for the insurance project that we're working on. And the email goes on to describe the process, the steps, why we're doing this, what's in each of the workbooks. And we also have, let's see, in each of these workbooks, there was another email that went out introducing these webinars. And we scheduled and have had one each Tuesday in July. This is the fourth one. So there are a total of six insurance application workbooks. The first of these webinars, we reviewed how to open and use and complete two of these applications. The second week we did two more, and the third week, last week, we did two more. So today we don't have a particular agenda, but since we did not record those first two webinars, I thought that what we might do today is review the applications, or a couple of the applications that we reviewed in those earlier webinars. I'm going to get out of my screen here just for a second and ask if there's anyone who has a preference on which of these applications we might go through. Again, we've been through all of them in the earlier webinars. Two of those webinars were not reviewed, were not recorded, and are not available for review. So I'm happy to go back through those, or if someone has specific questions, is in the middle of completing their applications and wants to address something specific there, we can do that as well. I'll pause now and just see if anybody has a preference that they want to express.
I've got a couple of quick questions. Is that okay?
Yes, sir, that'd be great.
So I'm assuming very few of the churches would have a need for the fiduciary liability. Does that sound correct? Looked like everything in there was no's for me.
I wouldn't be surprised. My understanding is that the health insurance or retirement plans, those are managed at the conference level. Is that correct? And so, and Will's given me a thumbs up. And so those are the two most likely programs that would cause an individual church or a business to have funds that they're responsible for, funds that are not completely owned by the entity. So if you were holding 401k money or you were responsible for managing or having it managed, then that would apply to you. I did speak to one church that had a health insurance program. I don't quite understand the program that they had, but it was not large enough that they would be responsible for holding any funds. And so that wouldn't surprise me if very few, if any, of the churches had a fiduciary risk exposure.
Okay. And with us being a new church and we're merging with another church, and that the title hadn't transferred yet, so we've got our insurance ready to be in play. So on loss records, they had one loss record that was a leaky hot water heater, but that was not our facility at the time. Do you want me to send that in like it was ours or not?
You know, I would be, I would include it.
Okay.
I would include it. We want to try to lean in favor of the underwriters. You know, I would expect that, you know, while it might look better for us if we don't include it, we're better off all around to provide more information rather than less.
Okay.
And make sure the underwriters are, yeah.
Yeah, it was a minor loss anyway, but okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
What if, back with the whole Boy Scout stuff, if our
Yes.
church had been named, but then like nothing came of that? I mean, I remember doing that Zoom call like 3 years ago, but nothing really came of any of that with our church.
So,
Will, do you know anything about that? Oh, you're muted, Will.
Yes, something did become of that in that the annual conference made wrote a check for over $1 million to cover the claims of in the lawsuit.
Okay,
It was not paid by our insurance. It was a check that we wrote out of our own funds to cover the cost of settling that lawsuit with the Boy Scouts. So it did not. Andre, I don't know what to say about that. Other than that, is that we wrote a check to cover all the churches that were named in the lawsuit. We did that on their behalf.
Okay, because that was in that original Zoom, Will, so I didn't really know what went beyond that.
Yeah. Is this Amanda talking?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not familiar with this, Will.
So the Boy Scouts were sued by all kinds of folks for sexual abuse, and there were a number of entities named in the lawsuits, including individual churches that sponsored Boy Scout troops. across the country. United Methodist churches, Baptist churches, Church of Latter-day Saints, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we had 80 churches in the Texas Annual Conference that were specifically named in the suit. And the Texas Annual Conference was a part of the negotiated settlement. In fact, the United Methodist Church was a part of the negotiated settlement. There was if I'm not mistaken, the United Methodist Church as a whole, I'd have to go back and look and get the exact number, but it was $25-30 million, and individual annual conferences paid a portion of that to cover the church's liability in their particular annual conference. So we had 80 churches, and our saying is $1.2 million, something like that we paid out of our funds to cover that settlement.
Okay. If I need some more information, I'll come back to you on that.
Robert is the one that can answer. Robert Besser, who's not on this call, can answer that in more detail and probably provide you additional information that you may need to share with underwriters.
Okay.
So that has changed the way that we as churches sponsor Boy Scout troops and has changed the language that in the agreements between churches and Scout troops, et cetera. So,
and yes, it's changed the way underwriters address this. So I've talked to all of the underwriters on this particular subject, but some at least will not underwrite or agree to extend coverage for churches that sponsor Boy Scouts. Some will say, if you allow the Boy Scouts to use your facility, we don't want to cover it. And then some will say, well, it's okay if the Boy Scouts use your facility, but they have to be sponsored by a separate entity, and you have to have a facilities use agreement that makes sure that they will indemnify you and protect you and carry insurance that would include you as an additional insured. So that's something that we'll come across in this whole process. But thank you for that information, and I'll make a note of it. And I'll find out whether or not we need to provide some more information on it. But I suspect that the underwriters are all aware of this and would expect that most, if not all, of the denominations that they deal with have had some experience with it. Yeah.
Almost every denominations across the United States was included as a part of the lawsuit and the settlement.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Tom. Sorry I came in late. I was on the phone with the post office, and they're even going to call me back. But anyway, so is this is, from what I understood, was just a question and answer session, or are you going over something in particular?
Well, it's question and answer session, and we're going through questions and answers and find out if anybody has any preference. Since we were unable to record the webinars, if we run out of questions, what I thought I'd do is go back and cover some of the material that was covered in an earlier webinar that was not recorded. But since you have a specific question, let's go ahead and do that.
I have several, yes. We've been trying to fill this out, and so
yes.
All right. On the occurrence spreadsheet,
yes.
On the common and operations tab,
okay.
On number 80, question number 83. All right. So, and Will, I'm so glad you're here because this is so
that's maybe good or bad.
Yeah, well, good for me, bad for you, I imagine. And number 83, does your organization lease, sublease, or rent premises to the other short-term or long-term? Okay, so we don't do that at our main building, right? But the conference owns our main building, and the conference is going to be submitting that part of things for us. For our other two pieces of, well, I guess 3 pieces of property, although one's just a shed, other two pieces of property are rental units. So yes, we do lease the units. We lease the property, but then when you follow along in the next portion, like number 84, number 85, does your organization obtain certificates of insurance? Obviously, that is intended not for a residential leasing situation. And so, right now, I just have no.
So let me make sure I understand. So what do you occupy at your location? You're one of the Wesley Centers, is that right?
That's right. Right.
In Nacogdoches.
Okay.
Right.
And what you occupy multiple spaces?
Our main space is 129 East College Street, which the conference owns.
Okay.
But the Wesley Foundation owns three other pieces of property. And
Okay.
there's a triplex unit on one, there's a fourplex unit on another, and there's a large shed on a third. And we own those, and so we're insuring those.
Got it.
So that's how.
And so let me go back then to question 83. Does your
Conference is
organization
going to put the stuff that we own on our submission.
I understand. So he's got two structures that are occupied as residential structures, correct?
Correct.
And then a storage structure.
Right.
And you'll be insuring those. Now, for liability, we're looking at question 83. Does your organization lease, sublease, or rent premises to others on short-term rental or long-term? And so your answer is yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then does your organization obtain certificates of insurance? So and do I understand your question is how to answer that question?
Yeah, the answer is no, but it sounds bad, but we wouldn't be expected to do that under the current situation.
So yeah, put no. Okay. If the
That's
underwriters have heartburn that you have no, that you're not requiring people that are living in this duplex or triplex, then they'll let us know. And
all right. Well,
we'll
in
reach
84,
out.
I explained that they're
suggest-
residential rental units. So
Good.
maybe
Yeah.
that'll
Residential rental
clean it up.
units. And then you put no in the next one. If underwriters have heartburn about that,
Okay.
right. Yeah. There'll be other questions that are asked that, you'll answer no thinking, well, I hate having to answer no, but that's the truth. You're best off putting in what's accurate. And
Sure.
if the underwriters have a problem with it, they'll call it to our attention and we'll talk to you about it.
I just wanted to make sure that the question was applicable to my situation, and that's what it was asking for. So, okay,
Yes, sir.
so under the same occurrence, and so now the new tab, general liability, the one next over.
Yes.
Question number 7 says average weekly worship attendance, and it gives a date instead of a number.
Yeah. Apologize for that. We have some imperfections in this, and you found one.
Well, so I don't know do I just leave it alone, or I report it to you so that, I don't know what to do.
So, Thomas, to answer your question, so I actually have the application pulled up right now. And when I went to click in the box, I don't know if you have, it shoots out this long link or this long link in that box. And all I did was I simply copied it and I hit backspace to get rid of it. And then for hypothetical, I put 7 and it saved it. It accurately generated that.
All right, fantastic. So it didn't even require the format then. Okay. All right. So the next one is.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Just trying to fill Charlotte's shoes.
Under occurrence, GL Accord 126, number 2. number 11, line number 11 underneath there,
Yes.
asking me for, you know, the location and the building number. And we have 3 different locations we're doing. And it asks, so ours says single family dwelling or 2 family dwelling. Both of our buildings are just a triplex units and a multiplex, and they're technically multifamily units. I think, but if you, I mean, each unit is not well, yeah, I think they're multifamily. So, because they're not a single house, right?
Right. But the structure is a dwelling.
It is.
Yeah, I would put 2 family in there, and then I'd
2?
just add a note in your cover note that if it's a 3 family or a triplex, that you know that
Okay.
that option wasn't available. Just put a note in your email or something somewhere
Okay.
to that effect. But for the purposes of clicking the box, put 2 family.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I'm dominating some time here, but
No, that's what this was
That's
set up
good
for.
questions, Tom.
all right. And okay, back to common and operations. All this wasn't.
Okay.
I went tab in the same file, number 38. 38. Oh yeah. Assets. So I wasn't sure if it was asking for current and fixed assets in there, because it feels like it's asking, it doesn't really specify just, you know, liquid or cash assets and securities separate from fixed assets, but it does want a total asset at the end. So do I just give a total asset number of all current and fixed?
Well,
From
that total assets, yes, that should be all current and fixed.
Okay, so 41 and 38 are going to be the same number?
38, average weekly total income, total expense, assets. Total assets.
Because it doesn't ask
Apparently
you what
so, yes.
cash assets are separate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I apologize. That is confusing, but those numbers, as I'm looking at it now, should be the same.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I did. So,
Okay.
all right. And then on the same tab, number 102. Let's see. Oh no. Yeah, 102. Sometimes I look at the line number instead of the question number. Okay. All right. So here's something that might be good to have Will in on. All right. So
What line are you on, Tom?
I'm on the same tab on question number 102. So
Okay.
this is about
The
taking
field
people
trips.
off the premises, taking clients off premises.
I'm going to share my screen so that we're all on the same page there.
Or if yes, details on frequency, locations, and if signed waivers are required, et cetera.
Right. So with the buildings that we're insuring, we don't take our tenants on locations. So that's what we're looking to insure. I don't know. I mean, of course, we take our college students from our main ministry on retreats and that sort of thing. So just to clarify, we're talking about the ministry and not necessarily.
So
yeah,
let
Will, go ahead.
me speak up at this point. So
Yeah.
I would be filling this out on behalf, I would be filling, the Wesley Ministry primarily takes in the building that the Texas Annual Conference owns.
Right.
So if we were filling this out, I've got it up. We've got to fill it out for each Wesley Foundation property. And in this case, so Tom, I'm going to ask you publicly, if you have an event where you take folks' place, do you have them sign something?
Yes.
A waiver? Okay.
Yes. It's a hold,
So I
harmless,
could,
a hold harmless agreement
yeah,
that includes the United Methodist, the Texas Annual Conference and the Methodist Wesley Foundation and all of its staff personally and the board of directors and everything.
everybody, huh?
Everybody I could think of,
Good. So,
including anybody that I designate to be a leader.
so Andre and Gilbert, from my perspective, one of the struggles I've had, frankly, is as I'm filling this stuff out, is that when you're filling it out for all these different properties, I'm gonna have to, I think I have to use multiple spreadsheets to do this. So just be prepared. I've run out of space on the property sheet for the number of properties that we have to put down, for instance.
Okay. So you have more than 20 buildings? I think we have 20 slots on that one.
Right. So,
Right.
Way
Okay.
more.
Yeah. So this really is a global question for the entity that's filling this out. So at the top of the page, we have, well, I don't have it in here, but you'll have your church name or your entity name there at the Wesley Center. And so this question really applies to the
organization.
the organization, who would be the entity that will be insured here.
So then Tom does need to fill this out and answer that question on behalf of the Wesley Foundation at Stephen F. Austin University.
Yes. Yes.
Well, good, because I've already filled it out. Well, so
Yeah. Now, and so Will, when, if that's not part of the mission of the conference itself, then you would say no. But what we're going to be compiling here is an application on behalf of the conference and all of the participating churches. And when it's compiled, what we expect we will have for this, do you have for this particular question, 101, does your organization host field trips off-site to off-site locations?
Yes.
Let's say we have 100 churches, and 75 of them do, then it's going to show 75 out of 100. And if provide details, those details will be there for the underwriters to read for those 75, and they'll we would expect they'll be comfortable that 75% of the churches do it, 25% don't, or they will come back and say, yep, here's our offer to insure your organization, but these are some things we want you to agree to tighten up on, and this might be one of them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So as an example, we have conference sponsored events at times that include, some people are better at doing the hold harmless agreements than others, I will say.
Sure.
And so what you're saying is we probably need to tighten up on those policies to make sure that everybody does that and does that well.
Yes, sir. And that's kind of a standard recommendation people like Gilbert and I give all the time, recognizing that we have some clients that take our advice and implement everything we recommend, and some that don't. So yes, we our advice, because of the hat that we wear, is yeah, you should manage your risk to the greatest extent possible, so that you look like a good risk to the insurance underwriters, and in fact, ultimately you'll have fewer losses and you will be a good risk and you'll pay less for insurance.
Jim has his hand up, I think.
Yeah, so in this question about sponsored overnight trips, does church camp fall under that category or not?
Yes, it does. Now, the camp itself is going to be another, if you're talking about sending a group to the camp itself is going to be another entity and they'll have separate insurance there. I would anticipate.
Lakeview Methodist Assembly, Lakeview Conference Center is a separate entity that was started by the annual conference, but it's separate and apart from the annual conference now. But they sponsor camps for many of our churches and retreats and things like that.
So I would answer yes to that question and then just let you know what that is, I guess.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So question 104 is about pets. Do you allow pets in the facilities? And so the answer is depending on which facility you're talking about, right? And for our residents, of course, we do allow pets, for residential facilities, but in our main building, we only allow service pets.
So I would say yes to 103 and then explain what you just said to me in 104.
Okay, but it's Will that's doing the main facility. So we only allow service pets, Will, for you.
Okay,
So,
got
but
it.
I don't know if I'm supposed to fill this out. See, there's this kind of ambiguity here about, how, yeah. What part?
Tom,
what parts I'm supposed to fill out?
Well,
Tom,
again,
I would
go ahead,
you
Gilbert.
go, Andre. Well, I was going to say I think Will's kind of shed light on the fact that he is the main part is going to be handled by him under the conference. So, and I mean, Andre, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the answering of these questions should be accounted for the two buildings that are used as the residential rentals and the storage shed, correct?
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would, so I don't know whether or not there is a legal agreement between the Wesley Center and the Texas Annual Conference for the use of that facility. But the insurance policy that we are aiming to put in place will cover both the conference and the Wesley Center. And so I would answer yes, and I would put that information in there. And I'm going to guess, Will, correct me if I'm wrong, you would have to be guessing if you weren't talking to Tom about whether or not they allow dogs, unless service dogs is kind of a universal allowance for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Will doesn't know our annual, income or expenses. I mean, there's all kinds of things specifically about our building and stuff and our what we do, number of staff, people, all that kind of stuff. Will doesn't have any idea what we have, really, and that's only in our records.
So Tom, let me suggest this as a way to go forward, and that is, let's think about you filling all of this stuff out as if you are a local church, except that I fill out the stuff related to the building.
The property.
Okay.
The building that we own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, some of these questions. Yeah, I just some of the questions. Okay, I'll all the questions then that I'll just assume it's talking about the rental units and the storage building then. I can send you, Will, I can send you a copy of our stuff so that if you have questions on your end, for some reason, you can reference them.
That would be great.
That might, okay, I can do that. Okay. All right. On the auto spreadsheet,
Okay. I'll open that one up.
um, Auto Accord 127 tab number 49 and 50. This is one of those things that I don't think it allows me to override. It asks for a number of employees, but it just gives me options for yes and no. And so,
Yeah, that's
what would you like me to do there?
Another glitch. I apologize. I would put down under 52. Let's see.
What do you put yes in the, we have, and under the, if yes, provide the number of employees? Or
Yeah,
something like-
yeah,
You
you'll
just
just have
drop it
to
in
put
52?
yes. You'll just have to put yes. And
Okay.
that's on us. Once we compile this, if the underwriters are looking for a number and we have a bunch of yeses, then we'll work something out with the underwriters on how to get that
Okay.
filled out.
So Andre, typically in churches, pastors do use their auto for church business, and there typically is a part of their compensation package that is designed to reimburse them for that. Different churches do it different ways, but typically that's a part of the expectation of a pastor in a local church, is to use their auto to do things that relate to the being a pastor.
I would expect that. And so, that's common. You're also going to have people who run errands on behalf of the church, taking money to the bank. You might have a couple of trustees that do that on Monday mornings, or an employee or a couple of employees might do that. I'll give you an example. One Friday evening at our church, we were getting everything ready for the youth to take a mission trip, but they had a trailer and it's something that the battery was dead, and I got in my car and I went to the auto parts store and bought a battery, and I was on the church's errand and I was in my car and nobody checked my. You'll see some other questions. Do you ask people for their motor vehicle record and verify that they have insurance on their vehicle? I was on an errand for the church. Nobody checked my motor vehicle record to see if I had a bad driving history, and no one asked to see a copy of my auto insurance. So those things happen, and yep, that's the kind of stuff that they're asking about here. And there's no way probably that most churches would know exactly how many volunteers might use their automobile on personal business. So again, just answer yes there if you can't put a number in, and we'll deal with it when we get it all together.
Okay. Thank you. And my last question for now, on the property spreadsheet, the the statement of values, the SOV tab.
Yes, sir.
Oh no,
Mine's coming up here.
Okay, I'm gonna have to answer this phone call and put you in suspense because it's the post office. And I'll be back in a little. You just hold on.
That's fine. That's fine. Does anyone else, while we're waiting for Tom, does anyone else have a question that we?
So when you go, this is Amanda.
Hey.
We're going to be one of your sticky wickets because we have a lot of entities. But on the one common in operations, there's one line 114, and it talks about, and actually it's below that 140. Talks about different mental health issues. So we have a ministry Mondays, twice a week, where we are open for homeless ministry. And so that, I mean, is a yes, but we don't really take a survey on all of that. So do you just want us to do a percentage of how many people we have per week? What's the best way to approach that?
So, am I highlighting? Do you see my screen? Am I highlighting the one you want to talk about?
Yeah, so 139 through 157, yes.
Okay. Do you serve clients with any of the following? So I would, you can certainly, I would go down at the bottom. I would say yes to those you know about, but I would go down to the bottom and say we don't know how, we don't provide a diagnosis, we don't survey, we don't gather information, we don't know the numbers. These are homeless people that may have any one or multiple of these.
And I think it would be
issues.
fair to share that we never open for them to be in the building unless we have paid security on site. If that guard doesn't show up, then we do it from the porch. So we can include that detail. But yeah, we don't really take a survey. We just receive who's there each morning on the porch and bring them in and offer coffee, food, and whatnot.
Yeah, if you don't, I wouldn't put the percentages. I would put the
Okay.
yes to the extent that you know, and then explanation in 158.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tom's still off to the side. Does anyone have any other questions we might cover while we're waiting for Tom?
On that same form that Tom was talking about on the property, there's a cell in there that's supposed to calculate value based on the information that you put in. Mine doesn't calculate the value. It just throws up, I forget what it is, but just throws up, I think, number signs or something. So there's probably a formula that's messed up or something.
Could very well be. Do you see my screen here?
Yes.
Is this the cell that you're talking about?
I think so. It's the one that says that it'll calculate it automatically.
So this is Jim, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is it throwing up a bunch of number signs like the symbol?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that just happened on my copy as well. If you go, and hopefully this is the same issue you're referring to. If you go all the way to the top of the spreadsheet, Andre, if you want to move your cursor to up to where N is. No, just the letter N on the spreadsheet itself.
Oh, okay. On the column heading?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got it.
If you can expand that column, just move it to the right a little bit to make it wider.
I didn't have any luck expanding any of those columns.
Okay, because it just happened to mine, and I was able to expand the column, and then the number popped up.
And so the number may be there, I just can't see it.
Well, I'll tell you what, is it Jim?
Yes.
So you see where do you see where I have my cursor?
Uh-huh.
And is this the column that you're having an issue with?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so why don't you highlight that first box like I have the first box highlighted on mine?
Uh-huh.
And then go look up here to see what does it say right here? On your spreadsheet, do you see this?
Yeah, I see the formula in there. I don't have mine pulled up. I can pull it up. I can see what the formula is.
Okay.
Am I allowed to change the formula to make it work? Is that what it should be?
Well, you probably can. It's just a summation.
Okay,
I think you can go up to the,
is that
and
J
make-
18? Okay,
J18 to M18.
okay,
Yeah, it could be that it just got corrupted.
okay, okay.
Possibly.
All righty. I'll look at that and see when we get off and pull it up.
Okay. The other thing you can do is, how many buildings do you have?
Just one.
Okay, why don't you go down to the second or third and see what it looks like there?
Okay, I'll do that. Good
All
idea.
right. Now you see the second one? You see how I've got the second one highlighted?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And you see this little box right here? You see what I'm doing right here?
Right.
If you get this little symbol right there,
Uh-huh.
and then you left click on that, you can drag it up one box and it should
Okay.
give you the correct formula.
Okay, all right. Good. I'll try that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have a question while Tom is, we're waiting for Tom and the postman?
Regarding daycare license and rental property. So we have a number of campuses. So at our West Campus, our education building is leased to a school and has a childcare. And then we, within one of our entities, has a daycare license in our recreation ministry. So we insure all the buildings, but then we parcel out different pieces. The school has to carry their own policy. We did that based on what our attorneys recommended. But do you want us to reflect all of that in these worksheets so that you have a complete picture?
No, certainly for the building, you want to make a note of it somewhere, but for the daycare tab, that should reflect the daycare that you operate.
Right.
In the school, you don't want to answer that for the school. You don't want to have to show the attendance or any of that. That should all be, not only should your attorneys require them to provide insurance, but in the contract, you should be indemnified. They should be protecting you, defending you, and extending their insurance to cover you. So we wouldn't expect those risks to be covered here. We certainly wouldn't want to pay to have them covered if they're being covered for you by the tenant.
Okay.
So Amanda, so I'm just asking a question to verify. So none of those entities are the church's entities. They are all like the school, I know, is a separate entity that's leasing the space. Is the daycare a separate entity leasing the space to them?
So the daycare license goes to our recreation ministry for their summer camp, but it's a child care license. Then our Port of Houston ministry, they just applied for a child care license, and I don't have all the paperwork yet of who's actually holding that license. I'm trying to help them understand I need to know that information.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's another child care piece that we've got to figure out. So, and each of them all have their own vehicles and all that stuff. So I'm trying to get all of it.
It's a separate organization then,
We're the parent.
separate and apart from First UMC Houston.
We're the parent for all of them, minus the school that's leasing at West Campus.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of your subsidiaries will be covered by this insurance. And so all of the unless they have their separate insurance, all of those operations you will need to consider in filling out these applications.
Okay, thank you.
With the exception of the school that operates as an unrelated entity tenant in a tenant-landlord relationship.
Okay. Thank you.
Andre, Curtis has his hand up.
Yes, sir.
Real quick general question about the deadline. It was the end of July. Is that still in effect? Because we've had some distractions down here in Lake Jackson the last couple of weeks, and it'll be a push to get it done in another week.
Well, we don't want to advertise that we're flexible because we don't want to encourage any delays, but we all understand that Hurricane Beryl pretty much followed the geography of the Texas Annual Conference, and a number of people are backed up as a result of that. So, we'll get to July the 31st. We'll compare notes with Will on what we have in and what we still may be waiting for, and I'll expect that we'll have some kind of communication about late entries after that.
All right.
Andre, I grew up in
understood.
Lake
Thank you.
Jackson, and there are lots of trees in Lake Jackson that I'm sure are on the ground.
Yeah, they're on the ground now.
Yeah, God bless you all. So yeah, we're as patient as y'all want to be, and we'll connect with Will and find
Yeah.
something that
We'll-
works
we'll-
for the conference.
I'll work with Andre and Gilbert, and we'll I will explain who's where and what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
We'll work with
Yeah,
you.
and the third member of our team, Braxton, he's in Houston. He had his own issues, so we understand.
Andre and Gilbert, one of the things that I have done there have been a couple of situations where I have received emails or phone calls from people asking me questions, and with your permission and encouragement, I have, in a couple of cases, referred people directly to you. I hope that's okay.
It's perfect.
That's
Okay.
what we're here for.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, Bob. Me and Bob have talked more in the last 2 weeks that I'm shamefully would like to admit that I've probably spoken to my own mother, but me and Bob are best friends now.
Okay.
I know the ins and outs of Pollard UMC.
Good.
Yeah, please continue to do that, Will. And we have reached out, as we were talking right at the beginning before everybody started getting on, but we've been going down the list and reaching out to churches we haven't heard from to make sure that they receive the information, beginning with your email and the applications, that they understood the instructions, that they received the information about the webinars, and calling to their attention again the contact information for myself, Gilbert, and Braxton. So we're inviting,
Okay.
we're inviting people to call us. And some people called, hey, is the webinar going to be recorded? And explain the situation we've had with the recording of the webinar. And I said, listen, if you have any questions, just pick up the phone and call one of us, and we'll be able to help you through it. And until we get overwhelmed with that, we're here.
Thank you.
Andre,
Tom,
well, Cheryl had her hand raised before Tom hopped back on, so.
Okay.
My question is back on the occurrence tab on question 88 to 90. It's talking about, does your organization dispense medications? That's not like when the preschool holds medications for students, is it? Because that's addressed on the occurrence daycare operations tab.
Okay, I've got the wrong one up. Bear with me here just a
Okay.
second.
Yeah.
This is
It's under the
auto
common
property.
and operations info.
There it
under-
is. Okay, Cheryl, which question was it?
Not 90.
Yeah, so if your organization does dispense medications in as part of your daycare operations,
Mhm.
then I would simply just say yes here, and then down at the bottom,
Bit of explanation.
yes, put the explanation down at the bottom. And then you, I believe that same set of questions or some similar to it are in your daycare operation.
Yeah.
What you have here is we've combined applications that we've gathered from a number of church underwriters, and they don't all ask the exact same questions, and some ask similar questions in different ways. So we try to avoid duplications, but we also didn't want to leave something out that one or two underwriters might be particularly interested in. So appreciate your patience with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tom, looks like you finished with the postman.
Yeah, not good news, not good news. But all right, so I'm on the property spreadsheet,
Right.
the SOV tab.
Yes, let me share my screen. Okay.
And the roof covering material. So you have to scroll right. It's the about the fifth one from the end column.
This one? Oh, you're talking about on this
On the
right here. Yep.
yeah,
Here?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The roof covering material, right? Okay, so if you scroll down from that, if you scroll further down in that drop down box,
Yes.
it lists 111 is normal shingles, and then 112 is normal shingles with secondary water resistance. Is the secondary water resistance just tar paper? Is that what that is, or is that something else that I don't know about?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll get it. And
Will has a comment.
I think I know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
There is a material that now goes down on roofs that's different than tar paper, that actually sticks to the roof, and also they roll it out like tar paper, and when they nail nails in it, it's designed to kind of grab around the nail too. I forget what it's called, but you'll see it on roofs. It's blue a lot of times. Sometimes it's kind of orangish red. That I think that's what they're talking about, Tom.
Okay, all right. So the answer would be, for typical asphalt shingles, is probably going to be 111 then, right? I mean,
all the new roofs are going to have that on it, but yes. But if it's a roof that's 15, 20 years old, it's probably not going to have that on it.
Okay, all right.
It's rolled out just like tar paper, but it's different.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, we're going to have a re-roof our fourplex unit in the next 2 weeks, I think, and he mentioned something about a synthetic material that he puts on.
Right. Yeah, it kind of sticks to the roof in addition to being nailed.
Okay, all right. So so we have one building that'll have that. Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any specific questions or general questions?
Will came in with the insurance knowledge. I think he's been holding out on us, Andre.
Gilbert and Andre, I've had to help churches settle some claims over the years, so I've learned a few things.
It's a very unfortunate way to learn those things.
First, when I got out of seminary, I was at a church that had a fire in 1978, and it was a $5 million fire in 1978. So that's a lot of fire.
Wow.
So I learned a lot in that experience.
Andre, I'm going through the chat right now, and I'm not seeing any responses in the chat, or I'm not seeing any hands, any new hands that are raised.
Well, what is the pleasure of the group? Is there would y'all like to go back and just have me go through my spiel on one of these and that we went through in the early in an earlier seminar. Does anyone else have any questions? How would y'all like to spend the rest of our time? And again, these are all scheduled for 3:30 to 5 o'clock. If we need to go late, I'm available to do that. So I
Tom,
don't
do you have
wanna
a
keep
question
people-
or? You
No,
still have a question,
that's
Tom?
old. That's old. This is
Okay.
still going to be next week, right?
We have another one next week, next
Okay.
Tuesday at 3:30. Yes,
And it's due the next day, right? The 31st?
it's due the next day.
It's actually due
Yes.
as soon as that meeting ends, Tom. As soon as it ends.
Midnight, is that right? Midnight.
Midnight. Yeah, yep. If you submit
we're
it before midnight, you still get full credit.
We're trying to offer as much help as possible, and listen, if we need to have more webinars later, we're happy to do that. But after that, I would think one-on-one, we're happy to handle questions one-on-one. When we do it in a group, everyone gets the benefit of the Q&A. So that's good. Cheryl?
My question is, when we submit copies of our insurance policies, do you want those named similar to how we did our spreadsheets? So that you can match them up with us, or?
Yes, that would be good. I think in the instructions for that, we let's see, what did we say? It was in one of these emails. Bear with me just a second.
Okay.
We do want to be able to match them up, and so this is the email. Let me share my screen. I'm back to the email that went out from Will. Let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay, in step one, we talked about how to save the file so that when you send it, we can identify it as yours and what it is. And then let's see. Yeah, so step 4, send a claim information source documents and anything else that you need in a separate email. Your church name, TAC claim information. Once you've completed your church name, TAC applications, and then if it's like your policies, etc., just your church name, policies, and other documents.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Now, if you're first, if you're First United Methodist Church, please do give us your town.
Our triplex unit actually has 3 separate addresses, but it's only one building. So do you want us to, so like the first, it's all attached, it's all one building, but it's 217, 219, and 221 Wettermark. They each have individual addresses. So do I just put 217/219/221 Wettermark for the address?
Yeah, either that or 217-221.
Okay. Well, there might
You can't put a
218 might be
in
across the street. I don't know.
You can't put a slash in a file name, so a dash would work better.
Oh, not a
hyphen.
file name. It's just the field. Yeah,
Okay.
just the
Okay.
field inside
I
the
thought we were talking
file.
about a file name. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That-
on the, specifically, it was on the SOV of the property. Thing.
Yes, either way would be fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Andre,
Yes.
since Bob and I are so close, he sent me a text. His microphone's not working. He wants to know, if a building has had 3 additions, do we age building by initial build date for building and the same for roof, or break it down by sections?
So we've had this question a few times, and I think all of the examples, it's best to list it as 3 different buildings if you can estimate the different square footages. particularly if you have a different type of construction, you have a different type of roof and a different age. In most cases, it is easier to distinguish the features by having three separate buildings. In some cases, we've had a building that was added on to, and I think it was maybe 20 years difference, but 40 and 50 years ago. I would just list the age as the oldest one, and in that case, the only difference really was the roof. There was two different types of roof on a single building. Let's see, I'm getting my examples mixed up. But you know, that was the one you and I talked about today with the clay shingle and then a seamless roof on a single building, had two different types of roof. And on that one, we, rather than separate the building, we listed a single building and put the clay tile on the roof, and then just added a note that it's, you know, it's there's two different types of roof. We listed a clay tile, but it has this other type of roof on it. That was for a single building. But again, let me back up, and I apologize for getting my examples confused. For three different structures, or a structure that was added onto a couple of times, in most cases, it's easiest to get the details right by listing three different buildings.
Yep.
Andre Curtis has his hand raised.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Real quick regarding the buildings and their age. What if we just if we don't know for sure when they're built, kind of have a rough idea, is just the best guess good enough?
Give us your best guess.
Okay.
Curtis,
Thanks.
I might be able to help you with some of that since I grew up in that church.
Okay.
And my dad was chair of the building committee several times.
Well, I might have to ask you then, because I haven't been finding a lot of good records of it's been added on to kind of over
Piecemeal.
the years. Yeah,
Yes, it has.
piecemeals. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, give me a call.
Anybody else? Anything else that, anything specific or anything general about the project that you might want to talk about? Well, Will, we're working for you. Would you, do you want to call it, or shall we wait a few more minutes?
Why don't we call it, and I will call Curtis real quick.
Okay, very good. And I am gonna lock down this recording, and we're gonna try to get it to you. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, please give us a call. This is what we're here for.